Hi everyone and welcome to our JAG Low Impact series. Today we have the amazing Genevieve, who is our social and environmental manager. We're going to talk through some of our low impact initiatives and where we're at today and where we want to be by 2025.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to talk you through what our strategies are today and take you through a little bit about where we are and where we're going, as Emily said. So to start off with, I want to just talk more broadly about the strategy that we have in place, which is really driving on low impacts. Now, when we talk about low impacts, what we really mean is that we want to be using less water, chemicals, energy and emissions, and generating less waste. So it's really focusing in on those 4 key categories as our overall focus for the brand. So the way that we're trying to drive and spearhead that is through using low impact materials, which we will talk about later, and low impact packaging as well for our brand. So for starters, where we're currently sitting at in 2021, we've currently got 56% of our total materials for JAG in low impact materials.
Which is amazing. I feel like a lot of brands aren't quite there yet, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just so exciting to see the way that these materials are being used across the brand. And what we're really trying to strive towards is 95% low impact materials by 2025, which is a big gap. We're trying
to
which is so exciting. So we've just got to close the gap of 40% over the next 4 years. And we're really excited to start to implement these changes in the ranges as we go through.
Why 2025?
So 2025 is actually working backwards for a range of goals. So what actually happens is we're really looking at trying to achieve 2050 goals. If you've heard anything about the COP 26 that's just been going on in Glasgow, which is the global conference on climate change. Everyone's trying to hit zero emissions by 2050. And then to really drive that change, to hit 2050, we really need to be focusing in on what we do before 2030. So if we try and achieve by 2030, actually we don't have that much time. There's only 9 years between now and then. And so we really need to make sure that we're embedding big practices and big goals now to be able to hit 2030 goals, to be able to hit 2050 goals. So 2025 sounds like a bit of a weird number, but it's actually all working towards this eventual 2050 that every company and government in the world is actually moving towards.
So where do you get majority of your information and I guess your benchmarks from?
That's a really interesting question. So at JAG, we actually have a low impact materials matrix, which we work off. And the way that it's been designed is that it sits into 5 categories. We have the materials that we want to phase out. There are non-low impact materials. So they're your conventional cotton, your polyester, and some of the other materials like that. And so we're really trying to move away from conventional farming, conventional materials, and then we move into the low impacts. And they've actually been broken up into 4 different categories. So they're a good, better, best, and circular. So the idea is that it gives us a little bit of a stepping stone to how we actually want to move forward, because it makes it a little bit tricky for us to just jump from conventional to best or circular without having any interim steps, particularly if we want to hit 2025 goals. So by 2030, we could start looking at having everything to be either best or circular, but in the interim, it's about taking these baby steps so that we can achieve that.
Yeah, amazing. You just touched on the circular economy. So do you mind actually explaining what this circular economy is that we're working towards?
Sure, because otherwise circular economy is a very confusing term.
Yeah, I feel like there's lots of different opinions and different perspectives on it as well, so it would be nice to hear from you.
Sure, so the circular economy I think is actually probably the most exciting part of sustainability moving forward. Yeah. It's actually where we shift the way that we consume and make products. And where it actually starts to work is, so we currently operate in a thing called the linear economy, which is where we take, make, use and dispose of all of our goods. We know primarily with some of our packaging about recycling. So it's all about, take, make, use, recycle, and then it gets reused again. But that we're just talking about the products in themselves. Where the circular economy comes in is it actually makes everything recyclable. Everything gets reused. There is no such thing as a way or waste or landfill in circular economy. Everything becomes the feedstock or the input of something else. So it means all chemicals are reused, or water is reused. It means that everything has to go back into either the system itself, which is production, say, or whether it actually goes back into being compost to help to grow the cotton again.
So the fashion industry, realistically, is probably the largest polluter, would you say?
There has been a couple of quotes that go around that say it's the second most polluting industry in the world. There's not actually any really clear data that says how polluting the fashion industry is, because no one has a holistic view of what it is like.
So I guess my big question is, how are we as a business going to implement certain things to hit this wider circular economy goal?
I mean, we're going to do a handful of different things. So as we know, the circular economy actually doesn't really exist yet. It's something that we're moving towards. There is no, unlike the COP26 that we were just talking about, there's no set date for 2030 or 2050. We just have to work towards it. And the more that we talk about it, the more that we move, the more that we're able to actually move the entire economy and the entire system towards that goal. So at JAG, the way that we want to focus in on this is we've got, again, 3 pillars. So our 3 pillars are on our low impact materials, so making sure that we reduce our conventionals. We want to have 95% low impact materials. We're only leaving a little 5% in there just to make sure that we can keep those beautiful hand fills or keep the longevity in some garments. There are just some phenomenal, fantastic feeling garments that we really want to keep using that we may not be able to swap and get the same quality that we really love and know.
I suppose the quality aspect as well is super important, because the longer you can hold on to something and wear it again and pass it through the generations and have that nostalgic value with something, I feel is also really important for the circular economy, would you say?
Absolutely. And so, I mean, that leads perfectly into what I was going to say. So the next pillar is talking about the circular economy, but it's not just about feeding into the circular economy, it's also being prepared for it. And the way that we want to be prepared for it is we need to have less textile waste. We need to be producing in line with a way that our garments can be loved time and time and time again. And we really want to be using different systems that allow people to emotionally connect with their garments. So for us, we'll be looking more into how you can personalize your clothing. Because, when you truly love a garment the way that you want to, you will keep it and you'll wear it until it's rags.
Yeah, it's personalizing your pieces, right?
Yeah.
Having that unique quality to them. We've done a few activations with different artists now, and yeah, people have just loved being involved in that, being able to put your own mind or your own creativity into something that you own. They've been really successful, so hope to do more.
And it's so important to be able to engage and love your products like that, because even when you are done with them, if they don't fit anymore or they're not quite your style anymore, then you'll take the time to sell them on or give them to someone else, or swap with friends or whatever it might be. But it actually allows to keep that garment in its life for longer, and that's what we really want to make sure is happening. So the first is the low impact materials, making sure we're making out of really good materials. The second is about circularity, so making sure that we have beautiful garments that people want to hold on longer for, and making sure that they're prepared for the circular economy. At the moment, we don't have an end of life for textiles yet, but that will be coming through in the coming years. And when we actually get to that point, then we want to make sure that our clothes are ready to enter that circular economy, and they can actually be easily recycled and turned back into product.
Yeah.
And then the last one is making sure that what you actually receive your JAG product in is recyclable or prepared for the circular economy again. So it's really on reducing waste. So it's in the packaging in itself, which is so exciting.
So throughout this series, we're going to actually deeper dive into some of these key pillars that Genevieve has just spoken about. So make sure that you subscribe to keep up to date with what we are up to.